今日华尔街时刻，我是米少于超。本期今日华尔街时刻节目，我们首先来听听纽交所教员 Peter Costa 对本周市场的解读。
The headlines, the tax cuts will soon be on their way soon. And what's your view on the process of the tax cuts, and what do you think the market's reaction going to be?
Well, I think that we've seen a lot of the reaction already to potential tax cuts. And one of the things that people should be aware of is that the talk is that they may not be all implemented at once. So this might be a graduating corporate tax cut over the next couple of years. That the market, if that actually works out that way, the market might take a little bit of pause because a lot of the expectations were for either a 20%, reducing the level to 20% or to 15%, and a lot of that is priced into the market right now. We'll see how that goes. I'm pretty sure it'll probably be one time, but you know what? In politics, you never really know. Maybe there's a little bit more in the market. Maybe there'll be other something else coming out of Washington that might be a serious positive. But as it stands now, if everything stays the same and it gets done by the end of this year, early next year, you're pretty much seeing that move in the market.
And also this week, we're going to have a FOMC meeting. So what do you expect most?
Well, I think that there probably nothing's going to happen as far as rate rises because I don't think that's even on the table until next month. But I do think that there'll be some commentary about, President Trump is supposed to pick a new leader or potentially keep Janet Yellen in the post as chairman of the Federal Reserve. So they'll probably see something on that. Maybe there'll be a little bit of an indication. But really nobody knows what the president's going to do. But yeah, it's kind of unpredictable. And I think, it was the timing of it was, he was making sure that they met already before he made any kind of decision. Let whoever, the Fed chairman has to be, approved by Congress and whatnot. So that's a 3-month process. So, but right now, I don't think you're going to really have much of anything. I think it would be Powell. Powell's my best guess. I think that they probably want to keep the course and the direction of the Fed pretty much the same. He's not a hardliner. Everyone's worked with him before, so they know him. A couple of the other choices might have been a little bit more difficult to work with. So, normally President Trump likes to stir things up, but I'm not really sure he's going to do it on this one.
And also the signals from Fed will affect the gold market. So from technical viewpoint, the key levels have yet to break down in a big way. Does that mean that big money is entering the market, supporting the lower range?
Well, I do think that they have been, there is money underneath the market right now looking for an opportunity because I think going forward, 6 months to a year out, I think gold will probably be higher from where we are. I just think that, we're in for a little bit more tumultuous, volatile year next year for a lot of different reasons. And I think that gold will be that place where a lot of people will put their money. So, yeah, I do think there are gold bugs looking for an opportunity to buy something a little bit cheaper.
So what's your long-term view?
My long-term view is that gold will probably be higher. I'm not saying $1,500 an ounce, but it's going to be higher from here, well into the 1,300s, possibly even getting as high as 1,400. And, if there's any kind of geopolitical situation with North Korea, which is always a potential, that gold will definitely go higher.
And some analysis took their view for the crude oil market is going to go out and hand of itself. So what do you think?
Well, I think that it's more of an issue with supply and demand. I don't think it's so much, crisis mode. There isn't really anything in the, looking at you directly that could be a crisis situation where oil would go up significantly. But there's also not anything out there. You have the Russians and the OPEC trying to contain production to keep the supply and demand at this level and maybe a little bit higher. I think they would rather have the oil a little bit closer to $60 a barrel. But right now, this is a very livable range for most economies across Western Europe, China, and the U.S. And I think that the flow is still there. I think they've got it pretty much under control. I don't see it dropping below $50 a barrel unless someone jumps out of the these accords and starts overproducing and then having this tremendous glut of oil. But right now, I don't see that happening. I think this is a good spot.
So recently, there's nothing like to drag it back down to the 40s.
No. I mean, there have been some analysts that thought that there might be a supply issue going into the first quarter next year. I think that the with OPEC and the Russians agreeing on production cuts and making sure that the supply is a little bit less than the demand, we've kept the prices up here. I think they're pretty happy with it right now. So I'm pretty sure they're going to try to keep it here.
好的，接下来我们来连线芝加哥商品交易所交易员。Brent crude remains above $60 per barrel and is still near 2015 highs. What are the reasons behind from your point of view?
Well, also WTI closed above 54 in the U.S. session, so both of these important levels, just from a perspective of how long it's been since we've been at these levels. The idea that the OPEC and non-OPEC producers were somehow going to gracefully exit from this production cut when it was finally started to work is what I think the reason for the comments by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia saying that no, he was hoping to extend the cuts. Again, they're finally starting to work. And that to me is the reason behind it. The pool of supply has finally started to drain, and this idea that they might exit out of the production cuts has finally gone out of the market again with the statements of Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
Some analysis warn that crude oil is overbought. Do you have the same opinion?
From a price action perspective, it's slightly overbought, but the path of this particular rally has not been that steep. It's just overbought based on the math formula of that particular indicator, and it can stay overbought for quite a long time. Having said that, the fundamentals in place the way they are and the price action that we've seen lately, again, getting above 54 and getting above 60, kind of argues for you to buy the dip if we do get a little bit of a sell-off. We can continue to be higher priced, and that overbought situation can turn to a neutral point from a price action perspective just by staying here and not really rallying much. We don't have to have a huge sell-off to cure that situation.
For Brent, how long do you expect it can stay above $60? And for WTI, how is the momentum going in short term?
Well, again, the momentum on both of those particular contracts is pretty sturdy. We've seen record exports out of the U.S., so I actually think that the price spread is going to compress a little bit, but Brent will stay above $60 for the short term. Again, we're doing this as we're coming out of the summer driving season in the U.S. The demand is continuing to gradually grow, and the supply is actually starting to slow. Again, when you look at the rig counts that we're seeing in the U.S., again, a trend of falling now. So we've got lower supplies coming in the near future out of the U.S., and the established lower supply out of OPEC and its non-OPEC partners. I think we can see both of those stay above those levels for quite some time.
With 3 central bank meetings this week and expectation of announcement from President Donald Trump on who will be the Fed chair and non-farm payrolls on Friday, how's your expectation? What is your expectation on the good performance?
Well, I think the key component to gold right now is going to be what's going on with these indictments with Special Counsel Mueller, Special Investigator Mueller, and the Trump administration. Trump is going to, at least has hinted that he's going to announce a Fed chairman, but we don't really expect that to be outside of the realm of favorable candidates like Jerome Powell and John Taylor. Both of those candidates favorable for the dollar, but not favorable for gold. You really have to look at this Trump-Russia collusion investigation to expect a spike out of gold. We saw a little bit of a spike today, a little bit of a pullback in the dollar earlier, but it's calmed down. It's not going to be the Fed announcements. And the Bank of England, as you mentioned, is probably going to tighten. All the strength in these currencies is bad for gold, but the Russia investigation, good for gold.
The value of the Bitcoin hit a new all-time high on Sunday, reaching 6,300 before settling down to somewhere around 6,100. How do you see the Bitcoin's currency trajectory?
Well, I think it's difficult to sell Bitcoin. Anyone who wants to short Bitcoin is probably not in the right game. You want to buy dips in Bitcoin as well as several other cryptocurrencies. You have to have some serious regulation and some serious interruption of not the blockchain technology, but Bitcoin specifically in order to stop the trajectory. Keeping in mind there's a limited supply of Bitcoin. So as the miners get more and more sophisticated, the cost to mine that Bitcoin becomes more expensive, by default raising the value of Bitcoin. So it's nearly impossible for Bitcoin to fall unless it gets replaced or shut down by regulation. Both of those could happen because there's tons of better technology out there, in my opinion, or combination of the use of blockchain than Bitcoin. But for the short term, Bitcoin's going higher.
好的，感谢您收看本期的金石华尔街时刻，我们下期再会。